Okay, great. Um, Now, the examples that you want to use are, we suggest using one literary work, one historical event, and one current event. You don't need to come up with spontaneous examples. The reason is the SAT essay is always something very general. Like we've already seen, does curiosity benefit us? Is privacy good? It's always something very general. They're not going to ask you about the War of 1812. They're not going to ask you about the Odyssey. They're not going to ask you about something specific. The reason is because it has to be a topic that everyone can write about. So you're going to have something to say about it. Now, the way a lot of you guys were concerned, again, this is going back to answering your questions. A lot of you were concerned, what if I can't come up with 3 examples? Well, I'm going to show you guys right now how to prepare your examples ahead of time. And the reason you can do that is because if you prepare your examples ahead of time and you have like 3 or 4 literary works that are pretty common that you know well, 3 or 4 historical events that you know well, and 3 or 4 current events, you're usually going to be able to pick one of each of those and come up with examples for the essay because the essay is so general, something about that example will usually relate to the topic. So the key though is you need to know your examples in detail. And you want to try to cite specific details, like you want to just cite maybe when it occurred, like is it the 20th century, the 19th century, the 18th century, etc. If you can do that, you look extremely smart because you look like, wow, this guy really knows, or this girl, this guy or girl really knows, their literary work in depth. They know all the characters, they know the themes, they know this and that. And I'm going to show you guys how to know those things in detail now. First thing you want to do is in your notebook, come up with either literary works that you've read either in your English classes or other places. It can be poems, books, etc. Come up with some historical things that you learned either in your history classes. Current events, maybe you're reading the news every day or you're watching CNN or something. No. So your list can be completely different than what's on the screen. This is just a list of books that I read in high school, a list of historical events that I learned in my history classes, a list of current events that I knew about. So what I did was I came up with these examples here. So a lot of these are probably common that you guys have read before. 1984, The Great Gatsby, Scarlet Letter, those are all common high school books. Historical events, I took a U.S. history class, so I learned a lot about Thomas Jefferson, Alexander Hamilton, and Aaron Burr. Eli Whitney's Cotton Gin. Current events in 2006, I learned the bird flu was big in North Korea, Hurricane Katrina was huge. So you want to come up with your own list. Like your current event might be how North Korea hacked Sony, right? That's a current event. So not only do you need a list though, you need a detailed entry in your notebook about, so for a literary work, you want to put the title, you want to know the author, you want to know the time period, and just a trick on time period. So The Great Gatsby happened in like the early 1930s, but instead of saying 1930s, you look smarter if you say 20th century or early part of the 20th century. So if something happened in the 19th century, or 1900s, you want to say 20th century. If something's happening like in the 2000s, you would say 21st century. If something happened in the 1800s, you would say 19th century. A setting, I mean, you can say 1900s, 1800s as well, but you might want to throw in the century. It just makes things look a little bit more sophisticated. You want to know where the book or where the current event was taking place. In this case, Great Gatsby was in Long Island. You want to know the main characters' names: Nick Carraway, Jay Gatsby, Daisy Buchanan, and you want to write down a few key facts. So the key facts I wrote down for Gatsby were: Gatsby built a fortune by bootlegging alcohol. Gatsby's goal was to court Daisy. He threw lavish parties for the upper social class, but doesn't even know many of the guests. He is fooled into thinking he is popular. His attempt to please everyone is futile, and he ends up sad and lonely. And yeah, you can definitely use SparkNotes to help you as well. I think that's a good idea. But you still want to know the literary event or whatever you're reading or whatever examples you come up with in detail, because if you know it in detail, you'll be able to apply that example to a topic. So you can apply this probably to does privacy benefit us? You could apply it to does curiosity benefit us? You could probably apply it to almost everything, or not. I don't want to say everything, but quite a bit. And if you have 3 or 4 of these, or 5 of these, or 7 of these, you're going to be able to apply those examples and not have to think of them off the top of your head, which is what most students do, and that's really difficult. So I think that was what you guys were really concerned about is, what if I can't come up with 3 examples?